Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family, and welcome to, I forgot to play the intro, so let me do that. Space. The Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the YouTube show Tuesday Night Trek. Its mission, to catalog every piece of Star Trek media, to keep alive the spirit of Gene Roddenberry, to boldly go where no YouTube show has gone before. Welcome, of course, to Tuesday Night Trek, and it's been 2 weeks now since we've gotten together and did a proper Tuesday Night Trek like this. Obviously, we took 2 weeks ago off because of the holidays, and we took last week and played Star Trek Online, but this week we are back and we're going to do it right. So we, of course, have Pacific 414, who has been very busy practicing his Ferengi impression.
I don't know what you mean, human. Where are my tube grubs? You promised me tube grubs, human.
I had nothing to do with that. That was Baron that promised you that.
Oh, I promised nothing.
I was promised that the captain of the show, the captain of this channel, would give me tube grubs and also find a double girl to clean out my ears.
You don't want a Dabo girl to clean out your ears. You want a Dabo girl to give you umox, and you know it.
She could give me umox as she cleans my ears and after she cleans my ears.
Think of what you can make out of the earwax, all those candles.
Think about the profit you can make from all that wax.
Well, anyways, though, guys, we are here talking about the very end of Season 6 of TNG and the very beginning of Season 7, the final season. And we're talking about 3 more episodes of Deep Space Nine. But before we do that, we are actually going to talk on, unfortunately, a very somber situation because we have, unfortunately, lost another famous Star Trek actress. I believe it was yesterday.
Yesterday, yes.
Yes, it was.
And Mike, I believe you yourself did a pop talk specifically about this. So we're going to go ahead and comment on this now. In fact, I'm going to bring in the article that I found of it from the New York Times. It says, Kirstie Alley, Emmy-winning Cheers actress, dies at 71. Now, why are we talking about her tonight is because she was also a Star Trek actress. She played the original Lieutenant Saavik from The Wrath of Khan. So let's go through this article just a little bit and see what she got up to. So Kirstie Alley, who took on the challenge of replacing a beloved character of one of the most popular sitcoms of the 1980s, Cheers, and made her own mark, earning an Emmy Award and a Golden Globe for her portrayal of the career-minded Rebecca Howe in that show, died on Monday. She was 71. The cause was cancer, according to a statement from her family on Twitter. Let's see. Does it mention where? Okay, so there she is from Cheers with Woody Harrelson. Okay. Where is where's the mention of Wrath of Khan?
I don't know.
Oh, there it is. While living in Los Angeles, Miss Alley began to take an interest in acting. In 1982, she made her film debut, in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, playing a half Vulcan, half Romulan lieutenant with pointy ears. And then as far as the rest of Star Trek history is going, she opted not to return for The Search for Spock. And Baron, can you sort of go into a bit of the reasons why that was?
From what I understand is her agent got carried away. And he figured that, well, with, Nimoy, she's the Vulcan and the positive response, she should get a lot more money. And they passed on her then because he was being a goit. And from what I understand, she dropped him when she found out that she lost playing Saavik. Because she was, it's hard to say is, didn't say was because, it's hard to believe she's gone, a big Star Trek fan. She was a big fan of Leonard Nimoy and Spock. She talked about how she would try to do the eye thing, try to teach it and do things with her ears to try to make like Vulcan.
Of course.
And so this is like a dream role for her. She's playing kind of Spock's replacement at that time because a lot of people thought this was going to be the end of Star Trek. This is the last film. Spock's dead. And then, she's going to be the one that's going to be taking over for Spock's position. Of course, things changed, obviously. So, yeah, that's basically in a nutshell. It's a sad thing because I would have loved to see her. Nothing against Robin Curtis. Nothing against Robin Curtis. Wonderful actress. Lovely lady, right? But, she was Saavik. And I know for Star Trek 6, they wanted her to come back to play Saavik. I think she turned that one. She did turn down, and they decided not to go with Robin Curtis, so they made up that complete new character, Valeris, which
honestly, I'm glad they did because I liked the character of Saavik, and I would have hated to see her do what Valeris does in Star Trek 6.
Right, and for all I know, that's probably one of the reasons why Kirsty, or I always say Kirsty, turned it down. But yeah, and it was because of her with Cheers. That's what got me started watching Cheers. Because let's see what she can do on Cheers, and then got me watching the old ones. But I'm not going to be ashamed to say it. Big crush on her. I always had a big crush on her. Whether she was in Star Trek 2, Cheers, doesn't matter. Just so it's like it is very sad. That she's gone. It was colon cancer, from what I understand. It was very fast. They basically just detected it and just, it went fast. So, I mean, she was tweeting everything up on Thanksgiving and all that. I was just kind of looking at her page, and then after Thanksgiving, it kind of went quiet, and I think now we kind of know why she was going through and doing that. So, yeah, I just. Too many gone. It's just 71 years old. It's hard to believe she was that old too. She didn't look it. She looked, even though, she had, of course, to struggle with the weight, she was not afraid to talk about it. She even made that TV show Fat Actress about it.
Which the article did mention.
Yep. And, she wins an Emmy. She won an Emmy for being Rebecca Howe. She was a good actress. She did really good. Her movie career didn't necessarily go places, but with TV, going on TV and be on television programs and doing such like that, she was able to keep on going and being there for us. And she was also at one time married to one of the Hardy Boys, Parker Stevenson. So he was the one who played the Hardy Boys in the 1970s TV show. So
and
I
have to check you there because I'm of the generation that when I hear the Hardy Boys, I think Matt and Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Pacific knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, yeah, wrestling.
Yeah, but I know where Baron's coming from too when he mentions the Hardy Boys.
And also with that, one of her first appearances, believe it or not, one of her first appearances on TV was a contestant on the Match Game with Gene Rayburn and Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley. She was a contestant on one of the episodes of Match Game.
Okay.
And the sad thing is that it was a few years ago she made her one and only Star Trek convention appearance.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why did it take her so long to do that?
I don't know. Maybe it was scheduling. Maybe it was just timing in general. Maybe she had no interest in doing it.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the latter. She, for all we know, that probably was a sore spot for her. Not being in Star Trek no more. And I can't speak for her, but if that was the reason, I can understand it. And it's a shame. I would have loved to have seen more Saavik with her as it.
Agreed. I think personally, if she had retained her role of Lieutenant Saavik in Search for Spock and Voyage Home, we could have possibly gotten more of her in Voyage Home, including basically sending her back to the 80s of San Francisco. Which just imagine for a moment how that would have played out, how she, like Spock, being a Vulcan, being
Mhm.
logically minded like that, has to navigate 80s San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, just imagine, and this is all hypothetical, what if scenarios. Let's say she had continued on in the movie franchise and then eventually made an appearance on Next Generation.
I would have
Yeah,
loved to have seen that. I really would have loved to have seen her on Next Generation.
yeah.
And the actual backstory of Savick, which we get in what we would call the EU. It was in the books. It was actually in the script. Never mentioned in the comics. She's
Hmm.
actually half Romulan, so she's half Vulcan, half Romulan. So she kind of shares a same lineage as Spock in that manner. That she's half, even though it's the same genetic family. The
Hmm.
passion, the emotions of the Romulan, and of course the logic and the coolness of being a Vulcan. And she was also, she was basically Spock's mentor. I mean, if you want to sit back and go with it, she with the space travel story with Mikey, basically she was that type of character. She was the one that was discovered by Spock and taken care of by Spock and made sure she got things
Hmm.
going. And of course, let's face it, between the two, Savick is a heck of a lot better.
And I kind of wonder, with Savick being half Vulcan and half Romulan, I wonder if that played a part in later in his career, Spock pursuing unification between the Vulcan and Romulan races,
I
along, of
don't.
course, with the events of Star Trek Six.
Well, I don't know about that necessarily because people that run Star Trek have a tendency to forget, ignore, right? So they wouldn't have even caught on to that nuance. If they had someone that was a little bit more competent in that area, they would have caught on that nuance. And I always was wondering when they sat back and said Spock got married in Sarek, because you know whether the child that Sarek had besides Cybok, I
Hmm.
was wondering was that Savick that he married, and
Hmm.
and also kind of one of the things the episode where we had Kelsey Grammer in. Uh,
Yeah.
they were actually toying with having Savick as the one standing behind the captain. But then they realized that the ship
Oh.
was actually taking place before Star Trek Two, so that wouldn't have worked because the ship the Soyuz came from a time before Star Trek Two, so that wouldn't have worked.
Okay. Fair enough then.
But that would have been good. I would have loved to have seen that.
It would have. Yeah. So, Mike, anything further that you want to say about Christy Alley and her career and her contributions to Star Trek?
Well, I mean, she was a great actress. I mean, how could you, put her career in just a few short sentences? She was great on Cheers, and
Hmm.
she was great in movies. I mean, the Look Who's Talking trilogy that
Hmm.
helped revitalize John Travolta's career, and she
Hmm.
and John Travolta were very close.
Very close.
Yeah. So, to Christy Alley, thank you for your career. Thank you for everything you've given us to Star Trek specifically. And before we'll continue, we will observe a brief moment of silence. All right.
Yeah.
So now let's go ahead and acknowledge the chats. Phil, of course, was the first to pop in. He says
Always.
Tuesday Night Trek equals a bunch of the ugliest guys ever on YouTube. But that's not what you were saying earlier. You said that me and Baron were sacred. We were sacred to the
Oh.
God Emperor.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
And he's also plugging the number. And Pacific, I'll
Yeah,
let you go ahead and plug the commercial here.
but there's a full number here, Phil. It's 1-800-555-noob. That's 1-800-555-noob. Do you or a loved one play on easy mode? Do you know someone who you care about that plays on easy mode and says that it furthers the story? If so, please call our operators at 1-800-555-noob. They are standing by to give you the help that you or your friends or family need. to play at a higher difficulty. Yes, it can be frustrating, but just know you will be a better person once you call our operators at 1-800-555-NOOB. Our
And just
operators are standing by.
And just to let you know, right now there is a special going on. So if you call within the next 10 minutes, you'll get 50% off anything to do help with this. Remember, easy rhymes with sleazy. So 1-800-555-NOOB. Call tonight now. In the next 10 minutes, 50% off.
I do feel now the need to state that for legal reasons, this is all fake. That number is defunct, as far as I know.
That's
It's
why
a joke.
when I made up the number, I put 555.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So, and of course, hello to Apollome's Minion. I believe Phil addressed this one's to you, Pacific.
Vampires Lives Matter. Yeah, maybe in certain games, but in Evil West, when you have a cool looking gauntlet, you have a cool looking crossbow, and you get a Gatling gun, and it's awesome.
JT says, so I can get a discount on Cash's Monopoly. Whatever financial things are going on between you and Cash, JT, that's between you. So I'll let you hit him up on that. And Phil accuses me of drinking Sam's Choice. Nothing wrong with Sam's Choice.
I've had it,
but that's not what I'm drinking.
He's going for the hard stuff. He's doing coke on the air, folks. He's doing coke on the air.
And Phil says,
"Wild man."
Christy was on the TV series North and South with Patrick Swayze.
Yes, she was. And I believe there's a TV show called Lipstick. It was like one season. She was on that one. There was a movie that I actually filmed in a city our town that I lived in. The town is called Laconia, and it was Dairy Queen, but it was like pretty little. I can't remember what the full name. I got a mail block on it. It was a bomb. It was with Ellen Barkin and all that.
Was it really Pretty Little Liars?
Pretty Little Liars, yeah. And the working title was Dairy Queens, but they decided to change the name of it because of legal reasons, as in we don't want to get sued. But I actually did see some of the filming that they had in that town, but I didn't see her, unfortunately. It's like, where is she? Where is she? And my former wife's going, no, you have to see her. You don't have to see her. So.
All right. So the episode. So as always, we're going over 3 episodes of TNG and 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine. So the TNG episodes we're talking about are Timescape and Descent Parts 1 and 2. And this is the dividing two-parter that bridges us between Season 6 and Season 7. So we're overall wrapping up TNG Season 6 tonight. Mm-hmm. So, Pacific, you can go first. What are your thoughts on these 3 episodes?
They're not bad. I will go ahead and say I don't think Descent Part 1 and Part 2 are the strongest as far as season finales and season openers are concerned when it comes to Next Generation, especially after Best of Both Worlds. Not to say that Time Zero was all that strong either, but when you compare Descent, especially with it being a Borg episode, to Best of Both Worlds, there's no comparison.
Yeah, I do tend to agree. Personally, and I'll get to you in Bear in just a moment, Timescape I thought was okay, but Descent, it wasn't bad, but I expected far more out of it. Let me read to you guys real quick what the description of that episodes of those 2 episodes says on Amazon Prime. So, Descent Part 1, quote, when the Borg return to do battle with the Federation, they boast a new individuality and tempt Data when they help him feel his first emotion. Part 2, described as this: Picard, Troy, and Geordi are held prisoners by Data, who has left the Enterprise to join his evil brother Lore as leaders of the Borg. I read something like that, and my imagination goes wild with, oh my god, what's going to happen here? Data and Lore are joining forces, and I set my expectations too high. So, Baron, what do you think of these 3 episodes?
Okay, yeah, I mean, the Time episode isn't bad. I mean, Of obviously the three, it's the best of them. Interesting take what they had there. Again, it was like basically it's kind of reusing the same thing where you're stuck in time. The Enterprise is being destroyed. They even admit it in the production, but we want to try to do something fancier about it. So it's already they're already admitting that this is a tried thing that they've done. Um,
Mhm.
we get to see the back end of a runabout in this episode, and I think the only time that the runabout was ever used on Next Generation, sadly, that wasn't used again for
Yeah,
Deep Space Nine.
yeah, I was gonna say this is the
Right.
only time
Mm-hmm.
in the Berman era of Star Trek where you actually see the passenger compartment of the runabout, where you see the bunk beds and the
Mm-hmm.
table and everything.
Yeah, I
Why they
mean,
didn't use it
Hmm.
for DS9, who knows?
I don't know. I would have thought I would. Yeah, there would have been a lot of uses for it. I would have thought, but it's the only one that they had use of it, and it was an interesting take, and you get to learn a little bit more about the engineering of the Romulan warbirds and how they used to go through space. Again, it's a good one, but again, it's a tried one. It's basically let's do uh, an episode where the Enterprise is stuck in a time loop, getting destroyed over and over again, and we have to do something about it. And this was it. Now, when we get to Descent, yes, this is a time where the novelty, and yes, novelty of the cliffhanger two-part episode really falls flat, extremely falls flat. They did this; they should never have done it. They just should have ended the season and gone to the other one because it is kind of lame. It is
Hmm.
kind of lame. There, like you said, there's that build up in there, and you have lore involved in it. You get Hugh involved in it, and you start finding out, what's going on with this. You figured this would be a gangbuster story. These two episodes together, but it's a whole lot of nothing burger. It really is, and this is where Star Trek Next Generation is really starting to show its age now, and you're getting to
Yeah.
that down peak now, definitely of Star Trek. This would have been the case where either you should have stopped at season 6, or you should have gotten a whole new team in to finish out the last season and go out with a really big bang. Um, Now we're kind of going into a little bit of mediocrity. Now, better than season 1. We're going. It's still going to be better than season 1, but it's showing its age.
And see,
Yeah.
here's that sad part of it. When I first saw Descent Part One, and then Descent Part Two after summer hiatus,
Hmm.
I actually liked the episode. But on further rewatchings of the episode, I don't like it as much as I used to.
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. And Baron, you don't need to worry about your dogs barking. Michael has that happen also.
Yeah, well, if you can see through the window behind me, the Griswolds have their light display going on out there. And so we're
I
getting more
gotcha.
people driving down the block than normal. And BB thinks that any vehicle driving down the street now, she has to bark at.
I don't think
So,
those are the Griswolds. I think those are the Bumpuses.
yeah, no. Well, the Bumpuses never get the lights that bright. He's more like Clark Griswold, I think. But I don't know. We call them the
True.
Griswolds. We call them the Griswolds. So, but yeah,
Fair enough.
I know where you're at with Mike. It was like I mean I was wowed with the episode when I first saw it, but it's like they're watchable, but it's still
Mhm.
a nothing burger.
Agreed. So let's get into Timescape now. So
Ooh.
this one starts with weirdly, and this kind of doesn't tie into anything else with the episode. This is just more of a slice of life sort of scene where Riker is in sickbay getting 2 bad scratches that he had right here treated by Dr. Crusher. And she makes a big deal of this, saying, "This is really deep. I don't think I'd be able to fix it if it was much deeper. You need to
Mhm.
be careful playing Parisi squares." And Riker's like, "I wasn't playing Parisi squares. I was trying to feed Spot."
Hmm. She was even guessing. Oh, you were doing calisthenics with Worf too, weren't you? No.
Hmm. Yeah. Like I okay,
Don't
I've
get
had
any ideas,
cats.
Mouse.
I've had lots of cats.
Mhm.
I've been scratched by those cats. Never once have I been scratched that badly by a cat. Have you guys?
No.
No, luckily not. But I've heard people getting scratched really bad by a cat. I mean, they can. It, just to give an example, the cat I had before, living, she's passed away now. I let her out on the leash at the house I was living at, and one day, she's out on the leash. I'm doing work with the former wife, and we're all of a sudden hear this meowing, like, what the heck? It's not the usual meow that the cat made. Goes over there, and she's sitting there, and in front of her is a mourning dove. And I take a look at it, and basically the sides of it have been deep, and the mourning dove is definitely not going to be with us. And it's like, yeah. First of all, I was amazed that she caught the bird on a leash. Being outside.
Mm-hmm.
I don't let cats run wild, but it's like how deep and those go in there. So it's like, yeah, a cat can really, if they want to, go deep and hard on you. Those claws are nasty. Don't get any ideas, Mouse.
Yes, Mouse. We don't need you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Green Lantern says, I have. Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
of course, hello. So this gets interrupted by a red alert sound where they're approaching a Romulan warbird. And they're basically having engine failures. And so the Enterprise decides to go and help. Meanwhile, Picard, Data, Geordi, and Troy are coming back in. You guys said it was the runabout. Initially, I thought it was the captain's yacht, which we haven't seen the captain's yacht yet in this show, have we?
And
never
we
have.
won't.
We won't.
Yeah, it's always designed up and ready to go. They had designs, but they never showed it. They never made a model for it, but they had the designs to do it.
Okay. By the way, I heard something that your dog said, so I have to play the clip. This is for your dogs.
Language, and for gosh sake, watch your language.
What did my dog say?
I know that tone of voice when a dog is barking. They're cursing out the cars.
That one? Yeah, that's funny. She just gets excited.
So yeah, like I said, I think this should have been the captain's yacht.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should have kept I think they should have kept the runabouts just for DS9 and used the captain's yacht here. I think that would have been far cooler.
Yeah, it would have been. Basically, captain's yacht is an oval saucer type thing. Big reason why they didn't budget.
Mm-hmm.
It budget. I mean, it would just no. They would have had to make the model, do the filming of it when they have the runabout and it's all ready to go there. So, I agree with you. They should have had the yacht long ago. They should, like when Picard was tooling around going to places, because actually the technical name would have been Captain's Gig, but they call it the Captain's Yacht. I don't know why they never did it. They should have, though. It was one of those things that was kind of disappointing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, at least as far as the television series, none of them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
And real quick, hello in the chat to Eddie Gannon, who says, peace and long life, live long and prosper.
Mm-hmm.
Julon True.
Julon True. And, yeah.
Sorry, what did you say, Mike?
Julon True. That's the Romulan greeting.
Okay, then. Oh, okay. I hear you.
All right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back. Ever.
Pacific has just exposed himself as a Romulan spy.
Mm-hmm. Which is important about this episode. Also, one of the things about it, the Voyager is supposed to have had a yacht underneath it to use. Mm-hmm. They never used it. There is one time that we did see the captain's yacht, but it's in one of the movies. I'm not going to spill it.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that,
but it was disappointing.
Yes.
They're heading back from this one conference where each of them were attending these different symposiums, and they're sort of comedically recapping the different symposiums that they went to. And we finally get I don't know if I've been secretly keeping track. So we all know the Pogo song Data and Picard, right?
Yeah.
I've been keeping track in my head of where each of the clips that he took that song from came from. And we finally got the last piece of it where Picard is talking about how the one instructor he did talked in an incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic. No one had the chance to interrupt. That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Lantern saying hashtag Romulan lives matter.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
I'm a Federation diplomat. Even I have to deal with Romulans at times.
Yeah. It's funny how you started the stream as a Ferengi and now you're a Romulan Federation diplomat.
Well, would you rather me rip out your heart and eat it in front of you, human? I could do that. I am Klingon.
That kind of sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to be a Klingon.
Yeah,
I could actually see him as a good Klingon. Unironically.
Would you prefer that I challenge you to a duel and rip your heart out?
Right. And real quick, Ghost Rider, we will be talking about Deep Space Nine later tonight. If anything, we're covering both TNG and DS9. So TNG first, then we'll get to the DS9 stuff. So anyways, all of a sudden, though, as Troy is talking about something, she looks around the room and notices that everyone is just frozen in place. And they stay like this for like a good 4 or 5 seconds, and then suddenly everything goes back to normal.
Here, I thought we were able to take over the show.
I see that look, Pacific. Now he's doing the freeze. So yeah, that we're not going to do that the rest of the show, but just to try it.
You get a haircut?
No, me?
No, Mike.
I need one though.
Yes, I did. I give it to myself.
It shows.
Ha ha ha!
Hey, it could be worse. At least you don't use a bowl.
That we know of.
Well,
So
yeah, I
anyways-
use a bowl when I pour my cereal or soup or anything that goes into a bowl.
Right, but you don't use a bowl for your haircuts.
No.
So anyways, continuing on. So everyone realizes something's not right here. We weren't supposed to have just frozen like that. So they do some investigation and find out that they are passing through a series of temporal anomalies, each one where time flows at a different rate than the other. And we get this one scene that's, I get what they were trying to do, but it didn't hit right. Where Picard notices a bowl of fruit that was there earlier, and it was fresh at the beginning of the show, but then he goes back in. And keep in mind, this is I don't know if you have days or nights in space, but it's within the same 24-hour period. And now the fruit in the bowl is completely rotten, as if it had been left out for weeks. He tries to reach for it, and suddenly his hand ages 50 years forward, and his fingernails grow like that. And again, I get what they were trying to do, showing that for that moment his hand was aging faster than his body. I don't think it did. I don't think the effect went over very well. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It's just one of those things where they tried it, and as far as they were concerned, it was a success. But you look back at it now, almost 30 years, and say, no.
You know, another show though that took the exact same concept and did it far better, believe it or not, is the Orville in the very first one. You know that one unfortunate lady doctor that had the beam laying on the banana that aged the banana
Yes,
forward
yes,
100
yes.
years, and
We
then
know.
she gets knocked headfirst into the beam herself.
And see, that's where Next Generation would have benefited from advanced computer special effects, but you have to remember 30 years ago, computer generated effects weren't like they are now.
Mm-mm.
Not to
And
mention, historically, Star Trek's never really had that big of a budget, right?
well, this does. This was putting in over $1 million an episode for a syndicated series that was unheard of. So they had a budget. Just where do we put it? And I don't fear the banana no more, by the way.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, like that set, the aft section of the runabout, they basically did that, burning the candle, working overtime to get that built within a week so they could use the show, and that takes a lot of money. So that's why it's a shame that set was never used again because of all the effort they did to make that set,
Yeah, definitely.
and it
And what
was
I'd like
intended.
to find out with that set is if they actually did end up using it sometime in the future, but they redressed it.
They did.
Hmm.
Yeah, they did it in I believe the Voyager episode.
I see. So they have to figure out how now to get back to the Enterprise while also navigating all of these different temporal anomalies, which eventually they do make it back to the Enterprise, and they find that both the Enterprise and the Romulan ship are completely frozen in time, and the Enterprise has basically both the Romulan ship and the Enterprise have fired on each other, but there's a secondary beam coming from their deflector array, looking like they were transferring power from the Enterprise to the Romulan ship. And so all four of them beam over to the Enterprise wearing special armbands right here to basically act as... It's basically to prevent them from getting frozen in time as well. So they go and look around everywhere. They see, number one, that there was what looked like a fight that had broken out between the Enterprise bridge crew and the Romulans, with Riker knocked on his butt and another Romulan kind of standing over him like this. Troy finds in sickbay that a Romulan has fired their disruptor at point-blank range at Dr. Crusher, hitting her in the side, and she's already started to disintegrate. And Data and Geordi find in engineering that their warp coil has ruptured. And even more disturbingly, turns out they're not completely frozen in time. Time is still moving, but quote to quote Data, at an infinitesimal rate. So the warp explosion will still happen, but it's going to take a long, long, long time to get there.
I think it was like 12 hours or something like that.
Something like that, yes. However, while they're discussing this, Picard just randomly bursts into laughter. And he realizes that something's not right. But again, he's laughing, and then he goes into panic, and they get back to the runabout. Come to find out that being out of phase with time causes a sort of narcosis, which as someone that scuba dives also as a hobby, nitrogen narcosis is something that they do teach you to avoid in dive school. One of the things that they do to avoid that is basically control your speed, especially when you're ascending. In fact, it's always a good idea if you're ascending from depths, I believe 50 feet or greater, stop for a moment about halfway up, rest for a moment, and then ascend the rest of the way to avoid things like that. So they figure out that they can only afford 10 minutes per trip. So the next thing that they do is Geordi, Data, and Troy go aboard the Romulan ship to find out what's going on there. And this is where we'll finally learn something really, really interesting about Romulan ship technology, in that they don't have a warp core like Federation ships do. They use an artificial gravity well as their engine. And this is something that I kind of already spoiled for myself again through Star Trek Online, because I would destroy different Romulan ships in the game, and all of a sudden the gravity well would open and just suck in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So, but seeing the singularity pretty much contained inside their version of the warp coil was really cool to see. So what did you guys think when you first saw that?
Oh, I loved learning new things about the Romulans or any of the species that we've encountered in Star Trek. So to find out that they used an artificial singularity to power their warp engines, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it gets tiring when everybody's using the same stuff in Star Trek. The Klingons had disruptors, but then it's like, okay, let's start using phasers with them too. But it's disruptors. The Romulans had their form of disruptors also. As even going back to the original series, I always thought that the Klingons were far more advanced than the Federation, because you look at the Klingon battlecruiser, and their warp drives are, and actually in fandom was called graft units, were so much smaller than the Enterprises. So it's like, oh, these people must have had more time and have a little bit more advancements in being able to travel around faster than light, having such smaller engines and such. So it's nice to see these little differences. Even when it goes into Enterprise, you're spoiled because you've been on Star Trek Online, with the ring around the ship. Their warp drive has a ring around the Vulcan ships.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it starts giving a little bit more of that there's more than just copying everything all over the place.
Right. Now, to draw another comparison to the Orville, the Orville itself uses a quantum drive. And to me, that sounds like a cross between the Federation's warp coil and the Romulan singularity engine. Would you say that's about accurate, Pacific?
That's probably the closest comparison that you can make.
They had to do something different.
Yeah. Obviously, they can't call it a warp coil, and they can't use transporters. But, I need to get back into watching the Orville at some point. Maybe we'll get into the Orville after we're done with, say, Enterprise or something, before we get into Battlestar Galactica or something like that.
Which Battlestar Galactica are we talking about? The original, or are we talking about the reboot from 2004?
Both.
Okay. What
about? I'm all on board for the original. Oh, Babylon 5.
Oh yeah, Babylon 5 too. I forgot about that one. So yeah, basically, long story short is we've got a lot of stuff to go through, even once we're done with classic Trek, before we get to new Trek. I am, at least, even if I have to do it alone.
There. I ain't going there.
Paul's going to be doing a solo show soon.
I have
the Star Wars guy. It'll be.
I have to descend into the depths of Grethor to cover all of Star Trek.
No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Night Trek. My crew has performed a mutiny against me, and I am the only one here.
First of all, you'll get crickets. Second of all, it's not Star Trek. It's space travels.
Fair enough.
It's pew-pews in space.
Pew, 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 pew.
Okay, so anyways, getting back to what we were talking about. While Data is taking tricorder readings of the Singularity, something happens, and real quick, Nerpoil says, Paul, you're invited to join us on Thursday. What is Thursday? Oh,
A major
Thursday.
award. We're discussing a major award.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely, I'll be there. I love that movie.
But Paul, you'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I'm there too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't forget me. Nerdy.
Absolutely. And then Eddie Gannon saying space, the final front ear.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Eddie, but that was a bad joke, and Godzilla is not here.
It's the Muppet Show.
Lighten up, Godzilla.
It's the Muppet
Grow a
Show.
sense of humor.
Yeah. All right. So, as Data is taking tricorder readings of the black hole for their warp core, as Ghost Rider says in the chat.
Yep.
Old man saying we try to forget you, Baron. Oh, that's harsh coming from him.
Oh man. Ooh.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I would say you could play a certain clip, but I mean, it's the old man. I don't know if you necessarily want to play.
Let me find a good one here. I do agree I have to play something, but here's a good one.
Emotional damage.
All right, so they figure out a plan basically because they notice as Data's taking tricorder readings, the black hole seemingly activates, and time for a split second resumes as normal, but then reverses itself back to where it was. And so they come up with this theory to basically prevent everything from happening by reversing the process of having time go backwards and then go forwards. And if they do certain things right, everything that's about to happen as far as the warp core getting blown up, Crusher getting shot, and so on and so forth, they can avoid all of that, which they almost do. Crusher is saved, but the warp core still ends up getting breached. But by cutting the connection between the Enterprise and the Romulan ship, the power transfer, which caused the warp core breach, the connection is broken and therefore no explosion. So the day is pretty much saved, and we get a final scene of Riker being scared to enter Data's quarters because of Spot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
what are you guys ranking this one out of 5? I'm going right down the middle, 2.5 out of 5.
Same.
No, I was going to go 3 because, the effort putting in with the aft section of the runabout. But it's an average episode. It's it's watchable.
It's watchable.
Yeah, it's watchable. I mean, it's not a horrible episode. It's not a great episode. You don't feel bad for watching it. It's like, okay, we watched an episode.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Baron, old man says, reverse the flow on the flux capacitor.
mm-hmm.
Yep, and you need 1.21 gigawatts to do it.
1.21 gigawatts.
I had a clip from that movie Pacific sent me, but I ended up getting rid of it because I barely used it. Oh well.
Way to go, butthead. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
I had to make a Biff reference.
Go ahead.
And also learning that they run their ship, the Romulans run their ships on little black holes. That was neat too. So
it was.
Little black holes running my ship.
So yeah, that's our thoughts on Timescape. Now to get into Descent parts 1 and 2. And as I said, this is the 2-parter that ends season 6 and begins season 7. We've already talked about at this point that the idea of a 2-parter splitting a season down the middle is well beyond played out at this point. And I do agree. And I've already said that I expected probably more than I should have from this two-parter, because again, listen to the description. Here's the description for Descent Part 1. Quote from Amazon Prime: when the Borg return to do battle with the Federation, they boast a new individuality and tempt Data when they help him feel his first emotion. Here's the description for Part 2. Picard, Troy, and Geordi are held prisoner by Data, who has left the Enterprise to join his evil brother Lore as leaders of the Borg. Again, I hear this, and I get myself probably more hyped than I should be, being like, oh my goodness, Lore is back. He's a great villain. And him and Data are actually going to be on the same page, and they're going to have the Borg working with them. What's going to happen here? And as I said before, I got my expectations far too high.
Well, they're set high because of that description.
Yeah, they were set high for us. Yeah, they were set high for us back then. It's like, oh, we're going into the last season. This is going to be, woo! What we're going to get here with Borg and all that, and Lore and everything involved in it.
I mean, I don't remember how, the teaser for the episode went, but it probably went something like this. Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation, Data finds emotions, but who is responsible? And then there's an encounter by the Borg. Somewhere along those lines. They try to build up the hype for the episode to get you to tune in the next week, or say, you have to wait from May to September or June to September, depending on when the season started and when the season's ending, so that you would tune in for that season premiere to find out, okay, what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, really wasn't on pins and needles waiting for the next episode to come.
No, because they're trying to repeat what they did with Best of Both Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to have another cliffhanger involving the Borg, but also involving Lore and Data.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, now here's the thing. I do, even still having seen this episode, think that the idea of Data and Lore working together with the Borg, that is a great idea.
Oh, wonderful.
Condense it down to one episode, and I think it would be an amazing episode, almost on par with something like yesterday's Enterprise. Which actually, let's go down this rabbit hole for a moment. Imagine if they stretched yesterday's Enterprise into a two-parter. I can't help but feel like it would be made weaker because of that.
Right.
I think it would have.
Yeah, the tension would all go. Because everything's fast. You got, boom, 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 boom. It was stretched out, then that tension isn't kept there.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much what's going on here. I said the same thing for Redemption. I said the same thing. I think I said the same thing for Time Zero, and I'm saying it here. This did not need to be a two-parter. Condense it down to one episode, and it would have been great. So that's pretty much how I'm going to talk about it, as if it was one episode.
That's what they do it.
So the episode starts by the Enterprise investigating this random ship that had attacked an outpost on this one planet. Riker, Data, Geordi, Worf. Actually, no, Geordi wasn't there. Riker, Data, Worf, and other security members investigate, and they find all sorts of Federation members dead. And they're looking around, and all of a sudden, the Borg pop out and start attacking them. And during the battle, Riker notices that the Borg act very different than how they acted before, where they no longer refer to themselves as a collective. They always say, "We are the Borg, you will be assimilated, resistance is futile." But this time they're referring to themselves as I and calling themselves names, and even more so, showing concern for their fallen comrades, something they never did before.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
But during all of this, Data gets into a hand-to-hand scrap with one of the Borg, and I just saw a black dog walking there next to you, Baron.
That's Sunny. That's
That's
Sunny.
funny. Can we say hello?
Well, she just went down the hallway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here she comes again. Come here, honey. Come here, honey. They want to see you. Can you get? Come on. Come on. Can you get up here? Come on.
What breed is she?
She is a mutt. She's definitely got pit bull in her. I think she's got lab in her. She's about 40 pounds. So yeah, and she's all lunkhead. She's a cowardly, loving dog. She has vicious licks, very vicious licks.
Nice. So, anyways, like I said, Data and one of the Borg gets into fisticuffs, and they both have a hand on each other's throat, and all of a sudden, Data gets angry, and he's like really intensely squeezing on the Borg, saying, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" And he kills the Borg. And he notices that felt good. And so after the battle is finished, he asks to be relieved of duty. And he spends the next several days studying himself, because this is essentially the first time he has truly felt an emotion. And so what did you guys think when you saw this?
I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah, definitely.
How could Data all of a sudden feel emotion?
Mm-hmm. We know there was that emotion chip he had, that Dr. Soong was going to give him, but it was stolen, so it wasn't in him.
Exactly. So Data, of course, first tries talking to Counselor Troy, and I know we give Counselor Troy a lot of flack for not being good at being at her job, and of course we have a counter of Guinan doing Troy's job better. However, credit where it's due, this is one of the scenes where she is being a good counselor. So she's basically talking about how there's no such thing really as positive and negative emotions. It's what you do with them that makes them positive and negative. For example, being angry at an injustice and then causing a good change would definitely make anger in that instance positive. But as Data is describing what it was like to be angry and the other emotion he felt with it, he described that other emotion as pleasure. And this is when Troy really gets concerned. And Black Dragon is here saying, "Hey guys, just got finished dealing with a moron on Facebook." Oh, I see. By the way, Black Dragon, you should see. Well, okay, I know you're friends with me on Facebook. I don't know if you're friends with Michael, but he tagged me in a post put out by the official page for the U.S. Army School of Religious Leadership, where he went to AIT at. And they basically put out a big video in support of the Army for the big Army-Navy football game that's coming up. So, just thought you'd like to know about that one.
I'm rooting for Air Force.
I don't think Air Force even has a football team. They might, but let's face it, everyone only, at least as far as that goes, only cares about the Army-Navy football team, which I believe Navy always wins anyway, so.
Okay, then I'm gonna put my support behind Coast Guard. Maybe the Merchant Marines.
Fair enough. Old man saying, "Go Army." Michael will be proud to hear that.
Yeah, an old sailor like you, though.
Pacific, who you think is going to take the game, the Army or the Navy?
We lost him.
Hmm.
He's gone.
Pacific,
He's
are
been
you there?
abducted.
I had a call, so
Oh, sorry.
I thought the Borg got you.
no. What were you guys saying? I'm sorry.
I said, who are you supporting in the big Army versus Navy football game?
Well, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna support the Navy because my grandfather on my mom's side was in the Navy.
Nice. Give me 5.
All
Give
right,
me 5.
virtual 5. Yeah, virtual 5.
There you
Way
go.
way to kiss up to the host.
So, and Black Dragon says it's hard to choose. I served in both. Fair enough. All right. So, anyways,
I'm rooting for the French Foreign Legion.
so while all this is
rooting for
going
the
on,
auxiliary.
I'm rooting for the Grand Army of the Republic.
Mm.
So, anyways, while all of this is going on, the Enterprise is continuing to pursue the Borg ship. And they notice that the Borg are seemingly able to just completely warp out of existence. And it's discovered that they have invented or discovered, one of the two, I'm not sure which, these transwarp tunnels, you could almost say.
Yeah, transwarp conduits.
So, kind of going back to our conversation from last night, Baron, something like that, could you almost say that that's like the web way that the God Emperor was trying to create for the Imperium of Man before the Horus Heresy?
Yeah, something like that. Controlled wormhole, artificial one. Yeah. Transwarp. And I don't think we actually really know what they were trying to get at with transwarp. We first heard that in Star Trek 3, the transwarp drive for the USS Excelsior. And that was supposed to be like a transporter warp technology. But the way it's sounding with the Borg here is exactly that. They're going through, making tunnels through space to get from point A to point B.
Yes. And of course, to quote Scotty, the more complicated the pipes, the easier it is to screw up the plumbing. If I got that line right.
No, you didn't.
Close enough.
Close enough.
I'll play.
And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. Let's just put it that way.
I'll play this clip for myself.
I know this ship like the back of my hand.
The more you take up the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. Yeah,
Yes.
from one doctor to another.
Mm-hmm. And one of the very few scenes where we see his missing finger.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, Data is running. Not only is he talking to Counselor Troy, but he's running these different experiments on himself, trying to induce emotions again. And he's done everything from listening to music to make him feel happy to even recreating on the holodeck the very same situation that he was involved in that fight with the Borg. And he's even saying the same things he did, but it's not working. Meanwhile, they catch up to the Borg ship again, and the Borg ship fires upon the Enterprise and beams over 2 other Borg. And of course, they get into a small fight on the bridge where one of the Borg and one unfortunate Federation officer pass away, but the other Borg is just simply knocked unconscious. Now, I do want to mention one thing that I forgot to mention earlier. When it's revealed that the Borg were there, Picard calls in to Starfleet Command, and one of the admirals goes out and takes command of the situation and basically chews out Picard for letting Hugh go way back in the episode I, Borg.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last time... No, it wasn't when I was watching. It wasn't when I was on Doomcock stream. I sent him this in a super chat. I said, hey, just letting you know that I'm now past the episode I, Borg, and I had just seen the episode, The Inner Light, and I wanted your thoughts on it, Doomcock, because I thought, everyone has said great things about The Inner Light, at least that I've talked to. Maybe he would like it also. And admittedly, his response, he said he liked it, but he pointed out some logical flaws in the episode and especially tore apart Borg, saying that should have been the series ender right there. That if Picard had willingly let a prisoner like that go, that should have been the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he even said it himself. That was likely his hatred of Star Trek Picard talking. But we kind of see, but I say all that to say that we do indeed see repercussions of his decision in Borg. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Ultimately, was Picard right to let Hugh go, knowing now what we know from these two episodes?
I'm not sure how to answer this one.
No, it's still kind of hard because we still know that the Borg are still a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have possibly stopped that problem at that time. It kind of goes down to, dare I say, the greater good. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, are the one. And so, did he help or did he hinder or did it not even matter? Those are the big questions. Those are the three that you have.
Right.
I don't, as it goes, obviously, I don't think it helped the situation because, the Borg, especially when you start getting to some of the other series, there's still a problem. They're still out there. And of course, obviously, Star Trek Online, as you know, it's. Picard actually done a lot of things, or had a lot of things done to him that he should never have been still in command, and it's not even things that was his fault. The Inner Light is one of them. Having all that knowledge of a dead society, that should have had Starfleet saying, "Come on back. We need to go and we need to discuss because you're the only receptacle we have of this lost society. We need you to tell us about this." The other thing too is even best of both worlds. I mean, going through what he did in that, he should never have been put back in command. At least not right away because of the trauma, because of who knows what might be still lingering inside of him. Even though they said they got the Borg stuff out. This does come into factors again coming up in the future here. I'm not going to spoil it. But for some reason, of course, with this, the repercussions are never really dealt with Picard. And, I mean, obviously we know we love Picard. We don't want Picard to go. But, yeah, by this time, Riker should have been in command of the Enterprise. Especially after Best of Both Worlds. And, I mean, logically, if you take a look at it logically, I think they're seeing a little bit of repercussions back, obviously, because the Borg did attack Federation. They are causing a problem, especially this branch of Borg that they ran across. So, really, should he have or shouldn't he have? I think logically, if it was me, I would have done it, sent him back. With the, be able to, actually, go and figure out and have that for destroying the Borg. Even if you're sending him back with some sort of corrupted file inside his head, so it could corrupt the Borg collective. Because mostly, a lot of these people are dead as it is. They're zombified people. They're going through horrible experiences. It's really hard, but they're more of a danger than they are anything else. They know no mercy. They have no mercy. They're just, one thought only. And, ravagers of the universe. Let's go around, ravage. Right. Originally, it was just for technology, but then as things got evolved, it started going with biomass as well, people. So, the Hugh should not have been sent back. He should not have been sent back.
No, he should have been held as a prisoner of war. Let's
Yeah.
face it. Even though there was no declaration by the Federation, they
Hmm.
could still consider it an active war when Picard was taken, and they're at war with the Borg. They should have held him as a prisoner of war, and that's that. Of course, I'll still maintain that at the end of Best of Both Worlds Part Two, Picard should have died during that explosion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
A hero's death.
I I definitely I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Hmm. These are the problems
Anyway,
that Next Generation has had. I mean, honestly, it's really
right.
where it is. And it's like with no thought of continuing a linear storyline, just having compartmentalized stories, and then possibly referencing back to a previous one. But again, they have a tendency to forget about what happened in the past too, and keep on going.
Of course. Black Dragon saying this putz just got our entire conversation removed from the post so that he wouldn't look stupid. That's funny. And no, I'm not friends with Mike on Facebook, just Twitter. Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna message you, Black Dragon, in Discord and see exactly what happened. So, like I said, one of the Borg was still alive. So they take him into the same cell that Hugh was kept in way back when. Crusher does what she can to stabilize him. And this new Borg wakes up and basically lays out the whole plan for him, saying, we don't care about assimilating just any life anymore because most life is beneath us. We only care about making ourselves better, becoming the ultimate life forms. And he references someone called the One that basically gave them that individuality, gave them their names, gave them their new camaraderie, you could almost say. Later on, Data is left alone with this Borg, and Data starts to somewhat fall under this Borg's spell because he presses a button right here on his wrist. And suddenly Data starts to lose control of himself emotionally. And more anger is starting to be induced in him, where he is pushed into admitting that in order to feel another emotion, he would do terrible things, including kill Geordi. Next thing that the Enterprise crew knows, Data and this Borg have escaped and stolen a shuttlecraft. And so they follow the shuttlecraft through another transwarp conduit to this one planet. And from there, all sorts of search parties are taken down led by literally everyone of the bridge crew except Dr. Crusher, who stays behind to command the ship from the bridge, which is the first time we've officially seen her take command.
Hmm.
Yes, there was that one episode where everyone was slowly disappearing, and she was on the bridge for that when it was just her, but now she's really in command.
Yes, because she is also the ranking officer.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
So eventually the team made up of Picard, Troy, and Geordi, during their searches, come across this building. They enter the building, and all of a sudden they are surrounded by the Borg.
Hmm.
And leading the Borg is Lore and Data. And Data and Lore pretty much both agree and announce to everyone that they're going to use the Borg to destroy the Federation. To be continued. Now, what did you guys think when you saw, number one, when you saw Lore back again, but when you also saw Data standing there pretty much acting like Lore?
I was curious to know where they were going to go with it in part
Mhm.
two.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as we're going to discuss, it doesn't exactly go the way any of us would have thought it would have gone.
yeah. I
Yes.
mean, it should have had much more impact than it did. I mean, again,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, it's showing its age at that time. It's like okay, well, now we get to especially when you know it's going to end on a cliffhanger. Uh, how things are going, so you're just all prepared for it. So it's like okay, so we just have to wait a few more months to see part two. But it was interesting to see Lore again. It's like, okay, what's going on with Lore? It's a question. What's going to happen? Data, Lore together. You start the emotion thing's kind of going with. Oh, maybe that emotion chip. Something has to do with that. Starts wheeling in your mind because Lore had that chip, and the chip wasn't made for him. So it'll be yeah. It was like It's like okay, meh. It wasn't at the edge of your seat type of thing. It wasn't one of those things where you go after the episode's over and they say to be continued. It was
Yeah,
just
because
Yes.
it could have been one of those episodes where it was just, a lone episode. And
right,
then you start off with something else in season 7. But it
right.
wasn't that way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
let's try it out.
imagine if you hear Data saying, "We will destroy the Federation," and instead of "to be continued," it's "We will destroy the Federation." Commercial break, we come back in the same episode.
Right.
Nothing of what we have seen in any two-parter since Best of the Both Worlds has matched Mr. Worf Fire
Yeah.
to be continued.
See, the drawing out with Best of Both Worlds Part One was brilliant because they were building up the tension and the suspense. The suspense.
Mhm.
You're getting good character study with that, with Picard, Guinan, everybody involved in there, what they were facing, what was going on, and of course the kidnapping of Picard. But the drawing out was very important for that because it was just like I said, leading that attention to that when he says that fire to be continued. This drawing out is just like okay, okay, okay. It's drawing out okay. Okay. So it doesn't have that buildup. That doesn't have that, gotcha at the end.
Exactly.
And by doing that, it hurts the episode because, again, by drawing it out, it was unnecessary. It could have been compacted down.
Yes.
Well, especially when you
And
go to a convention during the summer and you already know that Brent Spiner's going to remain with the show and that Data is
Hmm.
still a big part of the 7th season.
Right. We didn't know if Patrick Stewart was really going to be coming back.
Yep.
Honestly, there was talk, about contracts and stuff like that. And he might not be wanting to be in the role anymore, and this would have been a great way. We didn't honestly know if Patrick Stewart was going to be back fully for season 4, just to finish
right.
up like season, the second part, and then bye bye Picard. Um, but this we knew. It's like okay, old hat, just like we knew with Time Zero, just like all that. We just
Mhm.
And I think another part of it that kind of bugs me now as opposed to when I first watched the episode is it's another cliffhanger involving Data. Yes, I
hmm
know Data's a popular character, but we could have
hmm
had someone else involved
right.
in a completely different scenario.
hmm
Yeah, unfortunately I agree. So, with that, let's see. Pat needed the money.
Well,
Fair enough.
Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah. So, part 2 begins with the crew sent to search for Data getting disarmed
hmm
and their badges taken away and Geordi's visor getting taken away. All the while Data explaining to them that Lore basically gave him everything he's wanted as far as the ability to feel emotions. But Troy smartly points out that she only feels negative emotions coming from Data, and Data's like, "Well, yeah, that seems to be the only thing I'm capable of. And didn't you yourself say that there's no such thing as positive or negative emotions? And of course, all the rest of the crew are trying to plead with him. Data, stop this. You know it's wrong. But Data doesn't listen. So while this is going on, Dr. Crusher is playing cat and mouse with the Borg ship, which ultimately involves them going into the corona of the nearby sun, thanks to a experimental program that Geordi had created
It
to
was
allow them to.
another connection to suspicions with the mesophasic shielding,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up using that in this episode. But I wanted to bring up something that also connects suspicions to this episode is that the actor James Horan, who played Joe Brill, is Lieutenant
Mhm.
Barnaby in this episode.
Interesting. So, with that, they eventually are successful in destroying the Borg ship. Meanwhile, Riker and Worf eventually also find the building, and they sneak in through the underground, but also get captured by the Borg. But these are different Borg. These are Borg that have rejected Lore's leadership, and guess who they're led by? Hugh. And Hugh basically lays it out for them, saying, after my experience on the Enterprise, I did spread my sense of individuality, my sense of self to the rest of the Borg. And it did cause significant harm to us, where by the end of it all, we found ourselves leaderless, wanting a leader. And along
And
comes
they couldn't
Lore.
and they couldn't operate their own ship.
Exactly. And then along comes Lore, and he helps them out. Now, I know we have not gotten here yet, but I also know there is a Borg Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they not have the Borg Queen connected to them through all of this?
Because the Borg Queen wasn't thought of at that time.
I know, but even still, I still find myself questioning this, though. Just
It is one of the cases where the Borg Queen was not thought of by the staff or anybody with Paramount. So with that, that was brought up for the movie. And in many ways, it kind of goes a little bit against what the Borg are as a collective group of people. And it's just they forgot what they were doing. There was no Borg Queen thought of. That's why they needed to have Locutus. They needed Locutus to be a kind of a to help them with the Federation, and brought him in there. He was still part of the collective. He was the voice for the collective, but they're using his knowledge to be able to do what they were doing against Earth in the Federation. But yeah, this is one of the signs of the short sightedness and in forgetting what you did in the past with Star Trek.
right. So, yeah, it's just it like I said, I know we haven't gotten to first contact yet, but the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I know that there is a Borg Queen that's going to come about
Mm-hmm.
makes this not make sense to me.
Right, and really, it doesn't. To be honest with you, which in the long run, as Star Trek lore continue on, guess what? It starts lessening the impact of this story, or maybe going, eh, you know, in any Borg story. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even from the beginning when we first saw the Borg with Q, who I believe it was,
Yes.
and they open that chamber and there's a baby Borg in there, where it shows that they do actually reproduce in some fashion or another, and that's scrapped completely to where now they're just taking over other life forms. And the only time we ever saw that, first time we ever saw that happen was, of course, Best of Both Worlds. It was never implied before that that's what they did. They just wanted technology. They're just trying to take over and get technology. There's like scavengers of the universe. The first time we saw someone get switched over, it was Picard. And it seemed like it was a unique situation for them. They were using them as a weapon, a tool. And now, and since then, we still haven't seen anything with that. No words have you seen with the Borg going along, even to this episode where they're talking about, fully, truly assimilating other people into their
Yes.
collective per se. So again, Star Trek, their continuity issues, they have huge continuity issues, and they've always had, and probably always will, especially now.
Mhm. Yeah. So, anyways, Hugh basically says, listen, this is ultimately your fault for sending me back to the Borg with that, with this new individuality. And Old Man says, once again, we have had a lot of continuity problems. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So, they basically agree to work together to take down Lore. Meanwhile, Geordi is now a guinea pig in an experiment Data's running on how to basically turn Geordi, I guess, into a version of the Borg mentally,
Mm-hmm.
where his brain is basically fried and replaced with programming that the Borg control.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't 100% clear on this.
Again, at this point, why not assimilate?
Exactly. Why not assimilate? And of course, Picard and Troy try everything that they can to escape. It doesn't work. Eventually, Lore presents Data with a test to prove his loyalty, because through their conversations, the whole time Geordi especially is trying to reach through to Data, because the two of them are best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Geordi's trying to reach through to Data to get him to turn back good, and it's starting ever so slightly to work. So Lore presents Data with a chance to prove himself to Lore, where he orders Data to kill Picard. And Data has Picard at phaser point, but eventually he decides, no, I can't. And thus Data is also taken prisoner by the Borg. But at that point, the good Borg start beating up the bad Borg. And again, it would be cool if you could tell who was who.
Yeah, at least in G.I. Joe, you had red lasers and blue lasers to distinguish G.I. Joe from Cobra.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, through it all, Data ends up incapacitating Lore and shuts him down for good. And we do get, admittedly, a very heartbreaking moment where Lore, as he's shutting down, admits that he does love Data.
I love you, brother.
Exactly. That was admittedly a touching scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, Data is just back to normal. And he apologizes to Geordi for whatever injuries he had put in. And
But also, Data removes the emotion chip from Lore.
Mm-hmm.
yes. Like I said, it's just, I was disappointed by this one.
Yeah. And
At
then what
least
did they do? What did they do with Lore?
bring him back in Star Trek Picard, allegedly.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, are you just going to leave this valuable piece of equipment? And yes, that's what he is. He's equipment. He's an android.
No, he's not. He's sentient. Measure of a Man proved this.
Yeah. but he is an android. He's dead now. He's not. You're not doing like a vivisection on Data. You have a dead android now, and what knowledge they can get off of him that would be beneficial to the Federation. And you're just not going to leave something like that laying around. Who knows who else will come across him?
Yeah. So, like I said, this was not this was not a good two-parter at all.
No.
In fact, I dare say it's easily the weakest two-parter that we've gotten in all of TNG, season finale or not.
Mm-hmm.
So this is likely my... Oh, my grandmother just scared me.
Oh.
What's up? Yes. She had to confirm what time I go into work. But anyways, she jostled my trash can over there, and it made me jump a little bit. That's what that was. So like I said, this is likely my expectations being too high and being disappointed talking here. I'm giving this overall a 1.5 out of 5.
Ooh.
Mike?
As a whole, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
I'll go between you. I'll go 2. I mean, we did see a neat new Borg ship in this. I mean, at least we got that.
Yes.
And I like the transwarp conduits.
Yep, the transwarp conduits. So we did get some good things to add into lore. No pun intended. Their goal for this episode was to try to show a fanatical religious cult leader. You know, kind of the people's minds were on Waco.
David Koresh.
Yeah. Waco, and that's basically what Laura was what they were having Laura to be was kind of this religious cult leader to the Borg. And now you take a look at it, we actually have 3 factions of Borgs: the True Borg, Laura Borg, and the Free Borg.
Yeah, which that's an okay concept. The idea of a Borg collective that don't want to be part of quote unquote the Borg anymore. They want to have their individuality. But again, I feel like this was not a good way to set that up.
No. I mean, what happens? It kind of
it just falls flat.
Any future Borg encounter.
Out.
Yeah. Any other future Borg encounter, it's like, well, what did you do? What did you do? They're obviously probably wanting to try to liberate the rest of the Borg from all this. Try to become individuals. What all happens? I know that Picard, the imitation Picard series had touched on it, but that's not. In my book, that's just BS stuff.
And Nova says your grandma should make a cameo appearance on your live. She has made accidental ones. She's made accidental cameos on live stream, but as far as me purposefully bringing her on here, I very much doubt she's going to want to do that. So
she'll play Skyrim first.
And even then, no. He says my rate on this is on the graphics. On the solid, he rates it 0.5. Wow.
Well, he goes up to about, okay, I rate this as a 3 earlier, so I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest with you.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So now that we're done with that, before we move to DS9, let's real quick talk about Season 6 as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already said it, but we'll say it again. Season 6 is when I could really start to tell that the steam was running out for the next generation. Now, let me make this clear. There were still some good, even occasionally great episodes in here. Like, for example, Chain of Command, A Fistful of Datas.
Relics. How could you forget Relics?
Relics. Tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
Some great episodes here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when the episodes aren't great, you really notice.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the first season of Star Trek Next Generation had some gems in there. 11001001, that was a good episode. The Battle was a good episode. Mm-hmm. Even the season finale, Conspiracy... The Neutral Zone, Conspiracy, both of those were good episodes. I mean, especially Conspiracy, which is another thing that they're bringing in and flopped flat on its face. because it's like, oh, we got this, other species, and it's like, oh, we don't know what we're going to do with it, so we're going to ignore them. And they're let up and build up and let down. But they had gems. Second season, even with Pulaski, they had some gems in there too. But you're kind of seeing that the gems are starting to not be so much anymore, and you can kind of see that they're kind of tired. I mean, honestly, even with the people, them playing the parts and all that, you can kind of see that they seem to be getting a little tired.
Well, also
Yes.
you could tell that some of the writing staff is still on Next Generation. The other half of the writing staff is now writing on DS9, and
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing the effects of that.
Right. I mean, two shows going on at the same time is going to put a strain on production.
Mm-hmm. Now, what to expect as far as season 7 goes? Season 7, according to Crit, is where things really start to go bad for the show in the end. And I accidentally spoiled myself on this one. There's one episode I am dreading watching, and that is the episode Genesis.
Yes, I know which one
I mean,
you're talking about.
Look at the thumbnail. I know that's Riker.
Mm-hmm.
I know what happens to Worf.
Mm-hmm.
I know what happens to Barclay. I'm not looking forward to watching that.
No, it is definitely a Space 1999 episode on Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that episode is nowhere near the quality of a Star. This should be a first season episode. Really, that one should be.
Yes.
There are some episodes in season 7 I'm looking forward to talking about here on Tuesday Night Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Gambit's parts 1 and 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Parallels.
Mm-hmm.
And
Parallels.
the Pegasus.
Mm-hmm.
What about All Good Things?
Well, just wait until then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And real quick, Phil says, Baron's tired. # let Baron get some rest. No, Phil, remember, I'm the elderly abuser. I don't
old.
care about that stuff.
I didn't get my nap today, Phil. I need my nap.
For legal reasons, YouTube, that is a joke. All right.
I'm blinking twice. I'm blinking twice. You know what that means?
And of course, old man says, "Bad. I love understatement." All right, let's change settings now and go to.
It's about time, human.
And the 3 DS9 episodes we're talking
that's from
about
that's from STO.
Yep.
I can tell because I see Gordon feet.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk now. 3 episodes from Deep Space Nine are the Nagus, Vortex, and Battle Lines. So, as always, Baron, this time you can go first. What are your thoughts on these 3 episodes?
Well, obviously, the Nagus is a fun one for many reasons. One, the guest star. Great actor, especially if you watched Radio Days by Woody Allen. If you saw, of course, Princess Bride, which he's really well known for.
Baron, I gotta just say, what you're saying about Wallace Shawn being a great actor, it's inconceivable.
My Dinner with Andre, I think, is the one too. Or no, My Dinner with Andre? He did. I can't remember if that's the correct one or not. But yeah, I mean, it's inconceivable. He's a great actor. Can really punch out a great voice. So, I mean, just having him around and watching him act is a joy.
Oh, that's funny. He says, "Hey, I'm the old guy here, and I'm awake, I think."
He falls asleep. Trust me. He falls asleep.
I believe it.
But,
all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little weak on the other ones, but as we go along, we talk about, I'll give further detailed information on that one. But again, the Nagus, hearing that Wallace Shawn was going to be on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, he was playing the Grand Nagus, which of course we never really knew anything about. And it helps build the Ferengi It makes us like the
does.
Ferengi even more. Think all the way back 7 years before in our first experience of the Ferengi and how they were a joke. And now, I wouldn't call them this big, huge, formidable villain, which they're not. But you can see that they're definitely a pain in the universe's side in one fashion or another.
Yes. All right, Mike. What's your thoughts?
Anybody?
Oh, Spock, I miss you.
Move along home. Move along home.
Yeah, well, that's like your opinion, man.
Actually,
anyways.
I have a clip for that. Where is it?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I love that rendition of Hotel California. In that movie.
I do not. But anyways, Mike, what were you about to say?
My thoughts on the Nagus. It's a great episode because you find out more about Ferengi society, but what also makes it great is what Jake does for Nog.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That tops the episode.
Agreed.
And when it comes to Vortex, well, it's an Odo episode, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain word that Odo doesn't like, but there's a character in the episode that calls him a changeling and tells him that's what you are. And there are more in this nebula, in the Gamma Quadrant.
A lot of foreshadowing.
Yes, a lot of foreshadowing in Vortex. Now, Battle Lines, interesting premise. You go on to this planet, and this planet's constantly at war, but the thing is, you can never die. So
yeah, which I would say that's pretty much the definition of hell.
Or heaven.
A definition of hell.
Unless you go to Valhalla.
True.
Oh.
Klingons might like it.
And then Battle Lines. Oh yeah, you talked about that one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the Nagus. And Baron, let's make a bet. How long do you think it's going to take of us talking about this episode before Mike gets into his Ferengi impression?
What do you mean, human? I mean, it's
3,
inconceivable that you would even think that, human. I mean, you invite me to your show and you don't even offer me fresh tube grubs. Fresh tube grubs are the greatest. And then you don't even have a double girl here to clean my ears or give me Umox.
You're right. I don't.
And then when you see any females in the chat, it's inconceivable.
He's careful.
Yep. But anyways, so the Nagus. This episode starts with again another father-son bonding scene between Nova says no need for a bet, he beat you to the punch. Yeah. He outsmarted me, and I'm sure that's part of the Ferengi rules acquisition.
Well, remember, you do learn a Ferengi rule of acquisition.
You learn a couple, actually.
Rule of acquisition number 6. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to spoil it for any of the humans in the chat.
But anyways, also DJ Ronnie G says, word that Odo doesn't like. Drip. I guess then by that logic, Odo is one of those people that doesn't like the word moist. So anyways, starts with a father-son bonding scene between Sisko and his son, Jake, where Sisko wants to spend time with his son, but real quick, we have some VIPs in the chat. Echo Base Network, what's up? And I'm gonna guess that is Coach. I'm taking a guess that is Coach. And I'm about to guess that actually no, I'm not gonna guess what you're about to say. He says VIP. Come
It's
on, you're
Coach.
always
It's Coach.
come on. Yeah, it's Coach. You're
Nick would
always
have done
VIPing
that
around here, Coach. So, like I
Swinging
said,
ahead.
Cisco and Jake are trying to have some father-son bonding time. Cisco wants to spend time with Jake, but Jake is constantly blowing him off so that he can go and hang out with Nog.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, we find out that O'Brien, in tandem to his job as let's see. He says, "You're right, Baron. Nick really thinks he's a VIP." Yep, that's 100% Coach. So yeah, O'Brien, like I said, is filling in for Keiko as teacher for the school, and we see that Nog is misbehaving in school, literally using the Star Trek equivalent of "my dog ate my homework," except in this case it's Vulcans stole my data pad because, quote, they have no ethics. Literally everything wrong with the description of Vulcans right there.
I find that
And
statement illogical.
Yes. he even coerces Jake into vouching for his story when, come on, it's not true. Meanwhile, there's this one hooded VIP that has arrived on Deep Space Nine. We don't see who they are, but they're carrying a cane that has a sculpted Ferengi head on it. And this guy, along with his Ferengi son, arrive at Quark's bar, and turns out this is the Grand Nagus. Now,
Dun, dun, dun.
the Grand Nagus, what role exactly does he serve in Ferengi culture? He's like
I'm the
president?
Ferengi leader. I lead all the Ferenginar. I tell them how to earn their profit.
That's like
Okay.
Harvey being. That sounds like Harvey being a Ferengi.
Here's the thing though. It's funny you say that because I legit thought that the Grand Nagus in this episode actually did sound like Harvey Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, wow. I know that is the Sicilian dude from Princess Bride, but good lord, does he sound like Harvey?
Mm-hmm.
Inconceivable.
In fact, I'm gonna make a meme about that later and send it to Doomcock.
It's a 300,000 subscriber present from you.
Oh yes, he's either gonna love it or look at me like you have lost. No, then again, he's already looked at me like I lost my mind with my list.
Mm-hmm. You've been there, done that.
Yeah, and we
true.
did last Wednesday on Pop Talk.
Mm-hmm.
They all looked at you like you're crazy.
You're welcome, Pops. So anyways, the Grand Nagus is here to do these following things in this order. Number 1, make use of a holosuite. 5 special programs that Quark specifically chose as his favorites. They don't outright say what these programs are, but they make heavy suggestion to it, saying things like, "Are you sure that the Grand Nagus, as old as he is, will survive all 5 of those?" So clearly they're talking about combat to the death.
You might say that.
Wow, chicka wow.
So anyways,
Daddy, don't hurt mommy. Daddy, don't hurt mommy. What are you doing?
Okay. Sorry, Baron. I know it's not language, but I gotta hit you with it.
Language. And for gosh sake, watch your language.
Innuendo.
That one's joking.
It's innuendo.
Yeah. It's nothing mean-spirited.
Yeah.
I know. So, anyways, what the Grand Nagus is really here for is because he wants to use Quark's bar as a host, as basically a venue for a big Ferengi conference that's going to have. You could say like it's a quarterly State of the Union address or something of the Ferengi people.
Mm-hmm.
And so next thing that everyone knows, all of these different Ferengis from all corners of the galaxy are showing up. And of course, you know, Odo loves this. So during all of this, the Grand Nagus has dinner with Quark and Rom and Nog. And during this, the Grand Nagus finds out that Nog, quote, has been attending a human school led by a female. And the Grand Nagus is like, you actually send your boy to a school like that? And what does Rom do? He says, Nog, go to your room. You're not allowed to go to school anymore. And no studying. Yep. That's it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also, we already said it Sunday, but happy late birthday to Phil. So, during the meeting, Quark, the Grand Nagus pretty much makes him stay and sit through the meeting. And at the very end, the whole point of the meeting is them discussing the wormhole to the Gamma Quadrant and the different business ventures the Ferengi can engage in because of it. Because, of course, the Ferengi have something of a reputation in the Alpha Quadrant, and Mike, I'm sure that Ferengi
But
reputation.
we don't have it in the Gamma Quadrant. Remember that, human.
Yep. And so they're excited about this, but it's here that the Grand Nagus makes his announcement that he is retiring, because at this point he's too old. And who does he choose as his successor? But he chooses Quark. And Quark is shocked at all of this. But the Grand Nagus is adamant about it, and so Quark is the new Grand Nagus. And all of a sudden, all the Ferengi want to either be his best buddy or want to kill him.
Or both.
And come to find out, Quark is actually really good at being the Grand Nagus, because of course it's all about mediating the big business decisions, which Quark is really good at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the whole time his brother is trying to move up himself, being like, hey, now that you're Grand Nagus, can I take charge of the bar? And Quark laughs in his face. But during all of this, the Grand Nagus dies. And so they have a funeral for him. And it's here that we find out something really strange about Ferengi culture, where when someone of the Grand Nagus's stature dies, his body is literally what's the term that they used? Vacuum something. Basically, it's broken up into a whole bunch of different pieces and sold.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for as fiercely capitalist a society as the Ferengis are, I'm not surprised. So, during all of this, though, immediately after the funeral happens, Picard... Oh, that's what it is. Vacuum-sealed desiccation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Black Dragon. And then, yes... 5 bars of gold pressed latinum, I believe, is what one of them bid for a piece of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Nick,
Mike, is
my
that
boy, I know you have the lobes for business.
It's also during the course of this episode that we do, as I said earlier, learn some of the different tenets of the Ferengi rules of acquisition, including number 1: once you have their money, never give it back. Exactly. Now, what's the other one that we learn in this episode, Mike?
I believe it was Rule of Acquisition number 6.
Mm-hmm.
It's about exploiting your family.
In fact, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see if we can find like an official
Rules of
chart.
acquisition.
Yes. I'm gonna
I'm
see
gonna
if I
look
can
at
find
too.
a full chart of it. Okay, here it is. Number 1 is, and I'll share my screen here.
Oh, please do.
Number 1 is once you have their money, you never give it back. Number 6 is never allow family to stand in the way of opportunity. And I just noticed they skipped from 1 to 3 to 6.
Mhm.
So I guess these are all the ones that are just
Mentioned.
mentioned in the
In the
show.
various series.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna bookmark this so we can go back to it. So, anyways, like I said, Quark is doing a very good job as the Grand Nagus. And like I said, this makes people either want to be his best friend or they want him dead. And we see an attempt on his life happen where he's targeted with some form of explosive, but he bends down to pick up a coin. And as he does, that literally saves his life. So literally, it's like finding a lucky penny on the floor. And so he's trying to figure out who it was that killed him. And, he's talking, of course, with the old Grand Nagus' son and Rom.
Yeah, correct.
And, yeah, correct. And they're, of course, witnessing him deciding all of these business decisions. And they make a quip of, he's becoming really popular. He's giving away all of these great... If he keeps giving away all these great business adventures, he's going to become really popular. And pretty much they reveal to the audience, without anyone else listening, that the two of them are the ones that are trying to have him killed. Meanwhile, Jake and Nog have a bit of a strain in their friendship because, Nog wants to please his father, so he doesn't go to school anymore. And he even calls Jake a human and saying, you don't understand the Ferengi way. There's no profit in going to school. But Jake acknowledges that Nog can't even read. And so toward the end of this episode, what do we find out that Jake has been doing this whole time with Nog? But literally giving him private tutoring sessions on how to read.
Yeah,
and
because
Sisko catches him doing this.
Yeah, because Commander Sisko wants to know why Jake isn't home for dinner. He's made a wonderful stew for him and Jake, which Dax comes in and Dax has a conversation with Sisko, and Sisko says to the computer, "Where's Jake, Sisko?" And then he finds out that Jake's in one of the cargo bays. Dax helps herself to the stew, but we see Sisko arrive to the cargo bay. At first, he's going to be all stern and, Jake, you were supposed to be home an hour ago. Why aren't you at home? But then he hears Nog and Jake, talking. Come to find out, Nog's actually reading, and Cisco sees this, and he has a smile on his face because he's proud of what Jake's doing.
And Coach is saying, Dax,
Yeah, we're with you.
Me too. And Phil says, so if I remove Paul, I can get his channel and sell it on eBay. No, because you don't just have to worry about me. You have to worry about Michael, Jonathan, Cash Money, and this guy that just showed up, Crit, who says it costs 2 bars of Latinum to watch this stream.
2 bars? That's too low.
Yeah, if I'd be charging at least 10 bars of Latinum to watch this stream.
And it also leads credence to the fact that Phil McCracken is our personal Ferengi.
Yes. In fact, I remember he used to be the one commenting about wanting Umox.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, though. Eventually, it comes down to Quark outright finding out that Rom and Krax want him dead because they plan to throw him out the airlock, as Quark had, as he says, jokingly threatened to do to Rom.
Mm-hmm.
But then once the assassination attempt is thwarted and the two get caught, Quark is happy that they tried to kill him, saying things like, "I didn't think you had the lobes to do it."
Mm-hmm.
Now, explain this one to me. Why the lobes? Why not say things? Why not just say what they really mean? Like, "I didn't think you had the balls to do it."
It's basically a reference to their ears. You know, the bigger
Mm-hmm.
the lobes, the higher the profit.
Right. Women don't have pronounced lobes like the men, so it's in the same way of using the same disparaging remark that you have lobes like a woman. It's like saying that you don't have the balls to do this. So it's their way of doing it. Take a look at the lobes that the Grand Nagus had.
Right. Yeah, his was huge. His ears in general were huge.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where the bigger the ears, the more prominent, or go from there.
Of course. Everett saying, "Didn't know I stumbled into a Dr. Phil episode in the chat. Next thing you know, Coach and Nick are sent to the ranch."
Oh.
I don't know what you mean, Crit. And I'm being serious. I don't get it.
Know nothing.
So anyways,
we're getting improper thoughts to poor Coach there. He's thinking of Dax now. So am I.
Well, I mean,
Phil
it's
says,
not to
I
think
would-
of Dax.
I still like Kira though.
I like them both.
Yeah.
Phil saying, "I would remove Paul and sell the channel for one awesome pen and college-style loose-leaf notebook and some chewing gum."
Yeah.
And
Wrigley.
that's why you don't have any profit, human.
Well, if you got rid of me, Phil, who would provide your coupons?
I haven't.
So anyways, that's pretty much the end of the episode. The Grand Nagus turns out he wasn't dead the whole time, and he reassumes his role. Quark goes back to running his bar, and Jake and Nog rekindle their friendship. So I think personally this is the episode of the week for me.
It is.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to even go as far as saying this is 5 out of 5 for me. I genuinely do not have a single problem with this episode.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
I'll go between
Okay.
you guys again. I'll be 4.5. I mean, again, you had Wallershawn doing a great performance. Always fun to watch him in there. All the trials and tribulation Quark is going through, finding out that he's so proud of his brother for trying to kill him. This is almost harkening back to classic Trek, and this is definitely one of the gems of the first season of Deep Space Nine. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun to keep on going back and watching this one, just for everybody that's involved.
Exactly. And real quick, a hello in the chat to Moira Kitty.
Good.
Thank you for joining. And she says, "Meow, everyone," and I'm sure Mr. Mouse would be willing to meow back. And Nova
he just did.
Coupons...
He just did.
Nice. And Nova saying coupons are for softies. Yep. And you know what else is for softies? Hunting down vampires with guns. When you could always do it with swords and bows and arrows and such that have a far more... They're a far more challenging weapon to use against vampires. And that's why Skyrim is better than Evil West.
Whoa. No, listen here, son. You just got to know that when you're hunting vampires and other demons, because they're trying to take over your part of the West, you got to use whatever you can find. And that's why I use the Retineer Gauntlet. I also use my electrified shotgun. Heck, I even got a Gatling gun yesterday playing the game. And don't forget my electrified revolver.
And by the way, good night, Coach. Hope to talk with you again
Coach.
sometime here.
Good night,
by
Coach.
the way, Pacific, You know, you were starting to slip into your Macho Man voice a little bit there.
Well, you know, maybe there's a reason why I was slipping into my Macho Man voice, because I don't care if you are 7-3 against me. My time will come. My time will come in WWE 2K22, where I will be the cream of the crop, and there ain't nothing you could do about it.
This is a dangerous situation because, you play a vampire with Skyrim. He's hunting vampires. One of these days, Mike is going to rip your vampire head off and pour holy water down your neck.
That is a really
Disturbing.
that is a really interesting image. Real quick, Crit said in the chat earlier, Descent sucks compared to previous episodes. It makes Borg and lore cheesy. Thank God for First Contact. Or thank Orko, rather. Yeah, that's pretty much my consensus. In fact, Crit, I don't know if you heard, but I outright gave it a 1.5 out of 5. The whole two-parter.
Yeah, we did a whole 2-part ranking on that.
All right, time for the next episode, Vortex. And I'm going to try and we've been going at this for a little over 2 hours now, so I'm just going to double time through these episodes.
Okay, let's double time.
So, Vortex is an Odo episode where there's this criminal that has come aboard the Enterprise that got into a scrap with these two alien twin brothers and kills one of them. And according to the surviving brother, they're not quite a binary person like the one race from the very beginning of TNG, from the episode that I called Gent Tabs.
Yeah, the binary.
Binary, yeah.
Yep. But they basically say that they're two people but one person at the same time. And now because his brother is dead, he's incomplete, and so he's out for revenge. Meanwhile, the prisoner recognizes that Odo is, quote, a changeling. And the old man saying, "Wait, I'm out of breath." Fair enough. So yeah, Odo he recognizes as a changeling, he calls him. And basically says, "Listen, I can take you to a place where the changelings are from." And eventually Odo begrudgingly lets him, because Odo's the one that's initially responsible for taking him back to his home planet, because, the people where he's from want him extradited, and because the the people from the Gamma Quadrant, all those races kind of fall under the Prime Directive because it's our first contact with them. So if someone from the Gamma Quadrant wants a criminal from there extradited, the Federation has to abide by that. And so Odo tries to get him out of there, but something ends up going wrong and they crash land on this one planet where the quote unquote changelings were. But there's no changelings there. What's actually there is the criminal's daughter. And Odo takes pity on the three of them and helps them get back to the Alpha Quadrants and helps them resettle. Odo is great, but this is a pretty forgettable episode. Mm-hmm. Crit says it's very sad too because Data having emotions could have been explored better. DS9's other episodes continue the season 1 trend of not being bad, but just boring and uninspired. I agree, and this is one of those episodes. So I'm gonna go 2.5 out of 5 on this one. Mike?
2 out of 5.
And I'm going to side with you, Paul, on this one, 2.5. Learning a little bit more lore, that carrot dangling a little bit about Odo and his what he is and such. It starts opening doors onto his character's development and learning more what he is, and that's where the 0.5 comes from.
Agreed. Now, will I make my shots?
And the fact that Rene Auberjonois is such a great actor. He's such a great actor. I was, rest his soul.
Yes, he was. And I missed my shot.
Uh-huh.
All right, final episode.
I'm glad Coach is
Battle
gone.
Battle lines.
You would have been so sad
Mm-hmm.
that you missed
So
that shot.
I have a 20% success rate. See, the thing is, I have to throw it over my ring light.
So when you do that, you don't play on easy mode. You play on a hard difficulty.
It's either that or actually I am playing on easy mode because I could just get up and take it to the trash can.
No, that's easy mode. That's easy mode.
Yeah. See, and this is why he plays on easy mode, because he only has a 20% success rate on normal mode.
You've heard it
That
here
is
first,
true.
folks.
Yes.
Wait, 1-800-555 noob.
Here, I'll do one for you.
I can send you the graphic I made.
That's all right. We'll just run that up.
Remember, easy rhymes with sleazy.
That's right, folks. 1-800-555-NOOB. That's 1-800-555-NOOB. If you know someone who plays a game on easy mode because they say it progresses the story, or they try to throw their empty can of soda into the trash can and they miss, please call that number and get them the help they need today. Our operators are standing by.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, finally, battle lines.
Mhm.
This one has Cisco, Major Kira, and Bashir escorting Kaiopaka through the wormhole into the Gamma Quadrant because Kaiopaka has never even left Bajor, let alone seen the Gamma Quadrant. And so they go, and something goes wrong, and they have to crash land on this one planet where these two tribes of a very primitive humanoid species have been in constant war with each other. But they find out that they can't die, that literally they will get struck dead and then just minutes later rise up as if nothing happened, and the cycle starts all over again. It's also worth noting that Kaiopaka dies during the crash. Now they explain this with some science, basically saying that the moment that you die, these little bio nanite something or other machines fill your body and prevent you from dying. However, you're not able to leave the planet, otherwise you really will die. And the whole episode is trying to figure out how to get these two people to stop how to get these two sides to stop fighting, but it doesn't work. And then they realize, oh crap, not only do we have to leave these people behind, but we have to leave Kaiopaka behind too. And she's like, don't worry, this is what the prophets have destined for me to do. And there's one scene I do want to talk about, sort of in the midway point, after they realize that Kaiopaka has died. And that's Major Kira's reaction to it. Like, she breaks down hard on this. So, what did you guys think when you saw that?
It showed us Nana Visitor's acting range.
Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, she is the religious leader of the Bajoran people, particularly that faith. So it'd be like telling someone that you have the Pope crash on the planet and the Pope can't leave, or he'll die. And how would a good hardcore Catholic take that admires him so much? And this is the same way with Kira. If you take a look in that way, or the Dalai Lama crashes and he has to stay behind, or whoever it is that is your high-ranking a religious leader, leading of your faith, and you have to abandon them.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, Crit says, you can argue that besides the first 5 or 6 episodes and a few here, most episodes of Deep Space Nine Season 1 can be skipped until Duet, which is episode 18, by the way, which is the best episode of Deep Space Nine and one of the best Star Trek episodes ever. What is Duet about? Kira discovers that a Cardassian visiting the station could actually be a notorious war criminal. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a very good episode.
Oh yeah.
He also mentions that Kai Opaka is the Pope of Bajor. And if I'm not mistaken, the fact that she gets left behind on this planet opens the door for Kai Wynn to come into the picture.
Yes,
Right.
my child.
Yeah, there's a vacuum, so it needs to be filled. And boy, do they fill it.
And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people don't like Kai Wynn.
Oh no, I don't think you're gonna like her either.
Wait until you start experiencing her.
Fair enough.
And I want to clarify, we don't like the character, but we love the actress, Louise.
Oh yeah, we're
who also unfortunately passed away this year, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, not too long ago, about a month or so ago.
Yeah. So, battle lines, again, I'm going 2.5 out of 5 on this one.
I'm giving it a 2.
And I'll go with a 2 with that one.
All right. So, Crit said the best. By the merit of Nagus alone, Deep Space Nine wins over TNG. So let's update the scoreboard. Do we have that scoreboard, or did I cancel it?
I don't know.
I thought you still had it.
I deleted it. So I believe. So let's see. TNG versus. I'll make a new one. DS9. I believe the score is now 3-1. Unless I'm missing something. We've been doing TNG versus Deep Space Nine dual streams for now, what, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, 3-1, so we're accurate. And
You've heard it here first, sports fans. The final score of tonight's game between TNG and DS9, it was DS9 3 and TNG 1.
Mm-hmm. And Nova saying, we said it in the beginning, we'll say it at the end. R.I.P. Christy Alley, best known in Wrath of Khan. Indeed.
Right. And cheers.
Yes. Well, with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut it down for the night. So, a couple things we're going to plug before we go. Of course, on Nerdporial's channel, all 3 of us will be there for a discussion of the Christmas story, which is going to be awesome. Friday, I think we're going to take a break from Animation Friday, and we're going to cover our own classic Christmas movie, one that I have never seen. On Friday, we're going to cover It's a Wonderful Life. I need.
Oh, Paul, that's wonderful, Paul. Did you see Mr. Potter?
Are you volunteering yourself, Mike, to host that watch party?
I'm volunteering myself to participate in said watch party.
All right, fair enough. I'll find some way to get it.
Speaking of watch parties, may I
Yeah.
promote something?
Oh yes, Baron. You now have a new Baron Norman tag is now only part of your name, right?
Yeah, I have Fandomology with Baron Norman tag that I stole from that youngin' up there.
He didn't steal it. I gave it willingly.
I know.
Well, Baron, whatever do you mean?
Rules of acquisition. It's mine. No backsies. I'm going to drop off here quickly. My apologies, guys. I'm going to step over to Vigilante Williamson, who's celebrating his 100th episode. So that's just got started here. So we'll be talking with you two very quickly here. And everybody out there, live long and prosper. Love you all. Thank you so much.
See you later. And real quick before we go, also, one other thing that we're going to plug, me and you, Pacific, is that 2 weeks from yesterday, so December 19th, me and Pacific are going to be getting together to do an episode of this new series that we're starting called Beginner Series. Yesterday was the first episode with the Baron, and we covered Warhammer 40K. Next week, on the 12th, me and Jonathan are covering Sonic the Hedgehog. The week after that, the 19th, me and Pacific are getting together to discuss and maybe even play some professional wrestling.
Yes.
So it's going to be basically one of those things of we're not going to go too super in depth about all of professional wrestling, but we're basically going to be explaining it for someone that has never been into professional wrestling but wants to be. So enough
Professional
to,
wrestling for beginners.
yeah, like enough to maybe slightly more than get your feet wet.
Yeah. And may I promote something for tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Tomorrow on my channel, Pacific 4 and 4, for Wednesday's Pop Talk, we are actually having a live watch party and commentary of a great Western classic that's going to be 30 years old next year. And that movie, well, I'm just going to say one particular line from that movie. I think most of you might recognize it, but I will be your host. So I'm your Huckleberry. We will be watching Tombstone.
Tombstone. And Crit has big news saying I'll be returning next week to my computer. Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that there's finally some news about that.
Yes.
So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I got my intros and outros mixed up. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, everyone, live long and prosper. Why? Because that's part of the Ferengi rules of acquisition. Because the Force is family. Oh, and yes, the Godzilla streams will be returning. So see you guys later.